Driving down towards work this morning, looking at the gas pump and realizing, geez, $3.59. That happened quickly, did it not? Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. So you probably fill your tank up more than I do. I don't do a ton of driving. Got about a 10-minute commute here to the radio station. So I'm filling up once a week, maybe even less than that, depending on where I'm going, how far I'm going, when I'm in the car and whatnot. But regular gasoline is up to $3.82 nationally. That's 60% higher than at the beginning of the year. And while the Fed has been very optimistic, cautiously optimistic is what I should say, about this notion that they can pull off a soft landing in the economy, I can't help but think that that is on the verge of a potential unraveling. I don't want that to be the case. Let me be very clear. The doom and gloom, here goes the economy under Joe. He's done an awful job on the economy. That's indisputable. But I don't want to take that approach just because it might be politically convenient. I would love a soft landing for the U.S. economy. I would love there to be no recession in the first half of 2024, which is what you're seeing a lot of experts, air quotes, predict in recent days. I would love all of that to be wrong. But now that we have the situation where the gas prices are climbing back up, what is that going to do? That is going to result in an uptick in inflation. I mean, we've seen the inflation numbers come down to about 3%, right? That's what's happened here over the last couple of months. And, old Joe Boy's been doing cartwheels over that.
Come on, man.
He's really been excited about inflation at 3%, which is still 50% higher than its target of 2%. Right? Do that math with me. 3% inflation is 50% higher than the target of 2%. We're on the same page? But now, when you're at 8, 9% a year ago, suddenly 3% inflation doesn't look that bad. But now that you're seeing these gas prices tick back up, and we're doing pretty well here in Kansas City, we're about 25 to 30 cents below the national average. So we're doing all right here, all things considered. I mean, a lot of parts of the country are going to be over $4 a gallon. But this has the potential to take an economy that people were hoping would start to stabilize and potentially spike inflation back up, cause more economic fears, cause businesses to have to adjust what they're doing, and then potentially, I don't want to say unravel the whole thing because that's being too extreme, too doom and gloom, but certainly make this economy shakier than it currently is. Now, yesterday, Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, she takes the White House podium. And she starts talking about how lowering costs is such an important part of what this president is doing and what he hopes to continue to do.
We're going to hear from this president this week about how he's going to continue to lower costs, right? Lower healthcare costs for Americans, something that the president, has been leading on.
Come again? Are you kidding me? You got to be kidding me. This guy's going to be lowering costs? Okay, prices have risen, and this is indisputable. Prices have risen 16.9% since Joe Biden's inauguration. That is average inflation since Joe Biden took office, 16.9%. is where we're at since Joe Biden took office. That's as of August 10th of this month. So just a couple of weeks ago. I mean, you lowering costs. Tell me what costs have come down under Joe Biden. Maybe the cost of Hunter Biden's paintings have come down a tick, but nothing else has come down under Joe. That's why when, a lot of people ask me who disagree with me on politics and whatever, that's fine. They say, I don't get it. I mean, the Taylor Swift concert is packed. People are paying hundreds of dollars for concert tickets. Well, first off, we don't know who they are, but here's what we do know. who does inflation impact more than others? Inflation impacts people who are of the working class, of the middle class, far more than it impacts people who are already able to spend $500 on a Taylor Swift ticket. That's just how inflation works, and that's who it ends up impacting.
And they couldn't necessarily afford them. This is a deal when your daughter wants something, sometimes you're going, okay, kid, this is your Christmas, your graduation, and your birthday gift.
Well, that is...
And then you charge it.
Yeah, yes.
Right? So that's kind of a false notion that people are paying cash for the tickets just out of their wallet, right?
That's an excellent point. Spoken like someone who's been through that with children. You know, I'm not going to be far behind.
$10 for tickets to see the Eagles at Arrowhead, you said in 1978. What the heck?
Yeah.
No, seriously. Yeah.
That'll be Mark soon enough. His girls are getting to that age. He's going to be doling out $500 for Taylor Swift tickets. I can see it on your face. You're already pained by it, Mark.
We either have to choose Taylor Swift or playing soccer for the year.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Or you better hit a couple parlays.
That's true.
Mark hits a couple parlays, and everyone's going to be front row at Taylor Swift next year at Arrowhead.
That's right.
Jeez. But with that being said, you're right, John. I mean, we've got $1 trillion in credit card debt in this country as well. So the notion that people aren't just, putting it on the card for the short term, worry about it tomorrow. Not that that's the greatest move of all time. It's not, but it's a reality of America today where people can't keep up with what is happening to their expenses. They just can't. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, for all the talk about what's going to happen next year, politically speaking, who's going to be the president, who's going to be the nominee, I'm not convinced that it's going to be Joe Biden. I'm really not. This is and has to be issue number one. Indisputably has to be the number one issue. Because it's not even like the people in charge right now are pretending to feel the pain. They're not. They're not driving down Antioch here by Corporate Woods and saying, geez, gosh, gas is up 60 cents a gallon over the last month. What happened there? What's that all about? They're not seeing small businesses who have been dealing with rising costs for the last 2.5 years now, after COVID and the chaos that took. Now they're like, gosh, here we go again. They have no sympathy. They're burying their heads in the sand, and they're hoping that maybe you don't notice. They've got their two fingers in their ears, and they're going, la, 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 la. Nothing to see here. Oh, but there is. There is. And maybe the pain is not quite where it has been right now. It's not there. I'm not going to say it is. But the uncertainty of what's to come, and that's the other thing that people are waiting for. And that's why it's very tight right now. There is massive uncertainty from businesses and from consumers as to what this future economy is going to look like. And until that uncertainty goes away, I don't see things changing anytime soon. I wish that were not the case. I really don't want it to be the case, but I don't see how it's not going to be the case right now. 6:13 as we kick it off on a Tuesday morning on KCMO Talk Radio. Hey, don't forget, I know it's early, but I'm already looking forward to Tirade Tuesday coming up at 8:30. It's your chance to rip on whatever you want here on KCMO Talk Radio. So that is coming up at 8:30 this morning on KCMO. Coming up, speaking of the economy, remote work. I'm not looking to cause concern if you're a remote worker, but I do wonder if that is going to be falling by the wayside very quickly. And if you're a remote worker, I would like to hear from you at 913-408-7710. We'll get into that coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio. Get your greasy hands off my beer, Grandpa. Unless you want the Bud Light that's left over from last year that nobody's touched, then you can have it. Take all the beer you want, buddy. Come on, man. Oh, man. Welcome in. Happy Tuesday morning. It's great to have you here on KCMO. So yesterday we told you about this, John, to wrap up the show, right?
Yeah, and I was wondering where Heinerschneid went from Bud Light.
Oh, yeah.
Alyssa. Maybe she's working there at the White House staff now with these new ideas they're coming up with.
Well, she could replace Karine Jean-Pierre one day, possibly. So if you missed it, the director of the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, his name is George Koob. He said here in recent days, the U.S. may follow Canada's footsteps on alcohol guidelines. Currently, American guidelines recommend men limit themselves to 2 drinks per day, while women should only have 1 drink. Well, the American recommendations are up for review in 2025. And Mr. Koob is considering taking the U.S. the way of Canada. Now, in this article I'm reading here at foxnews.com, Koob, who said he partakes in a couple glasses of buttery Californian Chardonnay, said he was watching the Canadian big experiment with interest. Never trust a man who enjoys a couple of glasses of buttery California Chardonnay.
That is on my list.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about this yesterday, this potential new limit on beers. Now, once again, they're not going to limit how much beer you buy, but they would just limit what is recommended that you consume. And then who knows what happens from there. I mean, trust the government as far as you could throw them, right? So Karine Jean-Pierre gets asked yesterday by Peter Doocy, who is back from paternity leave after his wife had a kid. So he's back in the saddle. Somebody finally is in the White House asking real questions of the administration instead of fluffing them up all day. And here's what Doocy had to say.
Does President Biden want to limit Americans to 2 beers a week?
Where is this coming from? Maybe I didn't miss you so much. Where's this coming from?
All right. Well, Dr. George Koob, who is the director of the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, says the U.S. may soon follow Canada and recommend just 2 beers a week. How do you guys think that's going to go?
Let me tell you what I'm not going to get involved in that question right there. I have no idea. I've not seen the data. I cannot speak to this. I will leave it to the experts and not weigh in.
So if the experts say 2 beers a week, that's okay with President Biden?
I will leave it to the experts. I'm just not going to comment on that.
Okay.
Leave it to the experts. Oh, that's the old bailout line. Yep. Oh, we know you're not a doctor there, Karine, right? Jeez, I didn't know that.
Talk about a bombshell.
Can't imagine she didn't go to med school. Wow, there's a shocker. Going to leave it to the experts. Leave it to the doctors to determine whether or not you can have 2 beers per week. I just wonder, I mean, if we do get to that point, does that apply to Nancy and Paul Pelosi as well? I mean, are they going to be limited? Because it certainly seems like they should be. But once again, rules for thee, but not for me, is how I perceive this going forward. And it's not that, some people are taking this on social media and being like, they're not going to let you buy more than a 30-pack a month. No, once again, this is not about limiting your alcohol consumption per se, at least not yet. What it would theoretically be about is simply limiting what the recommendations are for your alcohol consumption. And I'm of the belief that, the less alcohol you consume, the better off you are. Like, I think that is pretty much common sense. But I also think that's true about things like Big Macs. I also think that's true about, Taco Bell. The less of that you consume, the better. But, for some reason, the fatter people are, the worse their health is in this country, and that's getting worse every single day. We just kind of say, oh, don't worry, just, take a pill and you'll be fine. Don't worry, Big Pharma's got you taken care of. It's all good. Don't you worry one bit about us.
Yeah, right. Drop the big gulp, mister, and back away from the car.
Yeah. Something tells me that that may be in someone's future. Like Bloomberg, he laid the foundation for this back in the day. Mm-hmm. No more supersizing in New York City, right? So, there is an element to this where, yes, control is important to certain elements in the federal government. That's absolutely right. They do want to control every aspect of your life. And as Texas Republican Representative Troy Nehls said on his social media page yesterday, let's not forget JFK snagged 1,200 Cuban cigars just hours before banning all Cuban products from the United States. It's good to be powerful in the federal government. And if there's ever a time when people need an extra drink to take the edge off, it's under this guy. I mean, geez, if anything, the administration should be like, you know what? We recommend you have 3 drinks a day. because we're struggling to get through this term just as much as you are.
God save the Queen, man.
That's exactly right. 6:40 on a Tuesday morning. Welcome in. Thanks for joining us on KCMO Talk Radio, 913-408-7710. That's the studio line and the text line here on KCMO Talk Radio. Oh, this is very good on the text line. Pete, 2 drinks per day. I'm just counting the first one and the last one. That's well done. Very well done on the text line. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. Meantime, top of the hour, Curry Myers. He's a criminologist, and he is going to be joining us on KCMO because all this talk about crime in Kansas City, how do you fix it, what needs to be done? Like, you hear the answers from Quentin Lucas. You hear the answers from, local media here in Kansas City. But what about people who actually study this all the time? Who aren't just going to sit there and point out and say, well, the guns, man, got to do something about the guns. We got to give homeless people free housing. That's how we're going to fix the homicide issue. It's never that black and white. It's never that simple. So Curry Myers is going to be joining us at the top of the hour on that here on KCMO Talk Radio, 710 AM and 103.7 FM. Plus, of course, you can stream us on the all-new KCMO Talk Radio app as we get it rolling through a busy Tuesday morning here on KCMO Talk Radio. Now, Peter Doocy was back, as I noted, from his paternity leave, which must be nice. I've had 2 kids now and no paternity leaves, and Mark's got a 3rd one on the way. And Mark, if you think you're taking like 2 months off for one of these paternity leaves, don't count on that. All right? We good? We're on the same page here?
Oh, yeah.
Just making sure. That's all. Just making sure we're all on the same page, as Mark has number 3 coming in, right before Christmas, right?
That's supposed to be the time.
Yeah, that's all right. So Pete Doocy's on paternity leave, and Karine Jean-Pierre welcomes him back by saying this.
I've missed you. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah? How's baby Karine?
She's good. She
Oh, baby KJP.
very nice to her dad.
Oh, during your
Just
your
like
leave.
adult KJP.
Oh, that's good.
Was that weird, or was that weird? First off, the baby's name is not Karine, so I don't know what, she was trying to be funny there, I guess, but when you're not that bright, your jokes really fall flat, is the moral of that story. And then the other part of it is, Peter Doocy, just like it was under Jen Psaki, becomes this figure who's like, there's the guy who's going to break our chops. And then it becomes like a joke between the White House press corps and the White House. But how messed up is that? Like, these people are supposed to be, every single person in that room is supposed to be challenging authority and questioning authority. Like, that's their job, supposedly. But it only happens, of course, when there's a Republican in the White House. And this weird thing of like, there's Pete Doocy. He's the Fox News guy who's going to ask all the tough questions that nobody else in the room is going to ask, so we're going to kind of poke fun at him. It's kind of like, well, no, you're all supposed to be doing that. You shameless hacks. Every single one of you are supposed to be questioning authority and not trusting anything you hear until you get verification of it. And asking tough questions about the economy and Hunter Biden. And instead, unless Peter Doocy is there, nobody asks the questions. And then when he comes back, they kind of mock him and they make fun of him. And they're like, hey, Peter Doocy's back. All right, the guy that's going to ask us about Hunter Biden and all the... Yeah, they're all supposed to be asking you about that. They're all supposed to be asking you about whether or not your boss, Karine, is as corrupt as it appears that he is and has been for his entire political career. Instead, no one asks it, but then Peter Doocy comes back and it's like, Peter's back. It really has become state-run media, and they're not even they don't even pretend that it's not anymore. And that's the most pathetic part. Now, speaking of pathetic, I wanted to get to this story before the kids wake up and you're bringing them off to school. So hang with me here. We'll wrap up the hour on this note. Hospitalizations for foreign objects getting stuck in rectums are on the rise. Don't raise your hand in there, gentlemen, please. We'll get you the details coming up next. Well, this story's a real bummer. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Thank you very much there, John. Headline here in the New York Post, of course, of all places, party poopers, hospitalizations for foreign objects and rectums are on the rise.
Wrecked him, darn near killed him.
I wanted to get to this before 7 o'clock when the kids are getting in the car. You're running them off to school. I didn't want to be doing this as, you got little Johnny there in the back seat. What's this guy talking about, Dad? Come on. No. I'm not going to do that. So I'm getting this in before 7 a.m. for us. Those of you early risers. Nearly 4,000 people are hospitalized with foreign objects in their rectum each year, according to a new study published last month in the American Journal of Emergency Medicine. And with many of the stuck items are sexual objects. So the increase, by the way, over the last 10 years has been pretty stunning. Researchers at the University of Rochester in New York were stumped. So they analyzed emergency reports from 2012 to 2021. Found there were nearly 40,000 emergency department visits based on 885 cases over this time period among party poopers older than 15 years old. And by the way, the numbers are on the rise as well. Jeez. Okay, so let's get to the nitty-gritty here.
Any Tide Pods in there?
No. All right. Of these reported cases, the average age of the patient visiting the emergency room was 43 years old. Nearly 78% of the patients were male, and 40% of these patients required hospitalization. Over half of the foreign objects over half of the foreign bodies were sexual objects, which could mean items like vibrators and beads and other toys. Balls and marbles, as well as drugs, were also in the mix here, but associated with a lower rate of hospitalization. So here's the increase. Researchers also found that back in 2012, they saw about 1.2 people per 100,000 go to the emergency room with items stuck up their backside. And that number climbed to 1.9 in 100,000 in 2021. Now, you might say, well, that's not a big increase. No, that's an over 50% increase in 10 years of people getting hospitalized with things stuck in their butt. So I don't know what the heck is going on here. All I know is the numbers are rapidly increasing, and you guys got some weird fetishes going on out there, and I don't know what else to say about that right now.
Back in the day, there was a show called Rescue 911, and they had an entire episode related to this subject.
Did they really?
Yeah, and I was like, this is so weird.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Okay. Oh, 913-408-7710. Do I dare open the phones to this, John?
I suppose. Yeah, right.
What could go wrong? It's before 7 o'clock. So
I was just going to add, help me find my keys, and we'll drive out of here. But I don't know where it goes from there, right? Up or down.
Oh, goodness.
I think we should go with it.
All right.
I did warn about language because he used a colorful language at the beginning there.
Okay.
So I think he'll moderate his terms.
Well, let's go to the phones, 913-408-7710, and start it off with Vince, who is in Kansas City. Hey, Vince, I gather here you are a, former firefighter? Is that right?
Yes, I retired in January. I did 26 years, and yes, a lot of experience with that. The little vibrating bullets stuck up in those regions. One of the last calls I ran as a firefighter was that. We went to a local hotel, and the woman was talking to us. The man was in the bathroom. He was a little embarrassed to come out, and he was like, "It's still vibrating. What do I do?" And then in the middle of the call of us trying to help him out, he goes, "Oh, it just stopped." So basically the doctor said, take a bunch of Metamucil and you'll crap it out. But so, yeah, I've got a lot of experience with those kind of calls. That's pretty much men and women, and that's about all I can say. There's a whole lot more stories, but can't really say it on the radio.
Oh, more stories that you can't say on the radio. Can you give us just a teaser of one that you can use appropriate language for?
Yeah, well, another thing I learned when I was a young firefighter that I didn't know is you can actually break your penis and make it look like a purple mushroom. I ran a few of those too. So yeah, just all kinds of interesting stuff.
Oh, geez. Okay. All right. Thank you very much there, Vince. Thanks for sharing the stories,
You
my
bet.
man. Well done.
No problem.
Wow.
Have a good day.
You as well. Gee. Whoa. Okay. Okay. All right. 913-408-7710. Oh, boy. Okay.
Well, that worked out.
That did. No FCC violations on that one. I'll tell you that. Okay. Well, picturing the big tough firefighter shows up and, the man.
What do we got here?
Yeah. This is not, when kids think about, hey, I want to be a firefighter when I grow up. This isn't exactly what they have in mind. Going to the hotel where a guy's got a vibrator that won't go off in his butt and he's hiding in the bathroom because of it. Oh, gosh.
I know they have those training centers where they have like the high-rise towers that they light on fire and the guys have to practice. I don't know if they have a lab for this or not. I wondered.
I don't know if this is kind of on the job where you got to learn this one. Hey, we don't have any training for this. You're just
Chief,
gonna have
what are we doing at Cirillo's today?
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, hey, I mean, it sounds like if you're going to be getting into that line of work as a firefighter, these cases are only going up. It is what it is. Hospitalizations over the last 10 years are up over 50% for foreign objects in rectums. So, I don't know. COVID broke us in many ways. No pun intended. Sounds like people got bored and they started just sticking things up their backside and seeing how the night was going to go from there. I don't know what else to say about it, but sheesh. All right. Maybe we'll bring this one back, 9 o'clock hour, after the kids get dropped off.
Watch it for the best of the weekend, though.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. I don't want to call it propaganda, but it certainly feels like it. Good morning. Welcome in. Happy Tuesday. Start thinking about Tirade Tuesday, by the way. 8:35 this morning. Always looking forward to that here on KCMO Talk Radio. You get to rant about whatever the heck you want. I'm not telling you what direction to go. It's beautiful. So this came out, downtownkc.org. Interesting timing as well, I must say. This was released yesterday as downtown Kansas City is in the running to get the Royals ballpark. It's going to be there or, of course, in North KC. Headline, downtown Kansas City's pandemic recovery is strong. Well, they've got some numbers here that I question. They just don't make sense to me. I want to see if they make sense to you. And they put this out, of course, just weeks before the Royals decide where exactly their future is going to be. And it reads here, from the onset of the pandemic, the story of downtown Kansas City has been one of incredible resiliency. In the face of great challenges and uncertainty, we remain steadfast and strong because of our unrelenting dedication over the past 2 decades to transform downtown. All right, here are the numbers. Let's get rid of all the happy chatter here. As of August of 23, this month, downtown KC has restored 100% of the unique visitors year to date, 4.9 million. What is this, a website, unique visitors? In addition, and how do they even, what? How are you even getting that number? Unique visitors to downtown Kansas City.
Didn't you sign the guest book when you went in? Firelight District? I did.
How are you possibly getting this number? I mean, are they taking pictures of our license plates every time we cross over the border on 35? Or, what is that all about? In addition, downtown has recovered 95% of the number of visits from 2019, with 26.9 million visits as of August 15th of 2023. Now, I keep thinking about a couple of things here. Does that include the NFL draft, by the way? Is it possible, work with me here, the NFL draft has skewed those numbers just a hair? Is it possible that jacked with the numbers just a little bit? Yeah, I'm just, throwing it out there. And then secondly, like if you go to work every day downtown, are you counted as a visitor? Because I don't know how else you get to 29 million visits year to date in a city that has a metro of about 2.8 million people. So that's the first part of this I'm looking at and saying, okay, I mean, listen, I want downtown to do well. I really do. I used to live there. I thought it was vibrant when I was there. The vibe I've gotten and people that still live where I lived is that it's not quite what it was. More homeless, more issues, more crime. Heck, River Market, just last week, you had a guy banging somebody over the head with a construction sign, right? And pointing a gun at an off-duty officer. The guy was eventually arrested over in KCK. Like, that stuff wasn't happening a few years ago. Not in River Market, it wasn't. And then as Tony's Kansas City notes on this as well, the Plowboys, I'm pretty sure that's still empty at 12th and Main. The barbecue spot there. I mean, I used to go there, and I'm pretty sure that's still empty. And something would tell me if things were going great, you wouldn't have a prime time restaurant location at 12th and Main empty right now. It's anecdotal, I know, but it seemed to me that you would have people breaking down the door trying to get in there and open the next great restaurant downtown. It also goes on to say here in this downtownkc.org article, says the volume of downtown employees coming into the office stands at 72% of 2019 totals, with peaks on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. However, the number of employee visits to their downtown office is up 35% from 2022 and has significantly increased by 78% since 2021. See, that's the most important part to me, though, here. The volume of, they're trying to look at it from the standpoint of, well, it's up from last year. It's still only 72% of where it was in 2019. The volume of downtown employees, and those are the people that you need to really have that vibrant downtown. You need people working down there who then also want to live there, who then want to spend money there. That's what you need. And you're still at 72% of 2019 totals. And by the way, if I'm John Sherman and I'm the Royals and I'm reading this piece of propaganda, I'm like, okay, well, part of my business model for the Royals is going to be having mixed use, having commercial real estate, having residential, having restaurants and bars. And if I'm going to be building commercial real estate in a place where the demand has not returned to 2019 levels for employees to get back into the office, well, that sounds like a loser to me. Why am I going to build commercial real estate when downtown Kansas City clearly must have a ton of empty office space right now? It's got to have empty office space based on these numbers. So what this appears to be is a pitch, and it's conveniently timed by downtown KC to say, look how great we're doing. You don't want to miss out on the opportunity. But when you dig into the numbers, it's not as rosy as they make it out to be. And how they're getting some of these numbers and how they're potentially skewing some of these numbers, I would question that as well. Now, speaking of things happening in Kansas City, Missouri, Mark says that there's a new quirk. Boulevard's got a new quirk they just announced. What is it, Mark?
Yeah, you got the cranberry apple cinnamon for fall, and I guess this is the second year they've done it. Last year they sold out before Thanksgiving.
Ooh.
So if you want it, you got to get it.
All right. Well, I'm not a big seltzer guy after Labor Day. That's kind of my heart out on seltzer. I kind of get seltzered out by the summer, but that may be worth trying. Well, this is awkward. Vivek Ramaswamy, who has taken the Republican Party by storm, he has been this year's Trump in the sense that nobody really saw him coming. He's an under 40 biotech entrepreneur who is a very smooth, slick talker. I don't know if he's got any principles. He was giving money to Act Blue, which runs the DNC, in 2020. It's not like, when people are saying, well, Trump was giving money to the Democrats in the 90s, that's a lot different than Vivek doing it literally 3 years ago in a post-George Floyd, post-COVID America, right? Very, very different. It's not comparable to Trump giving money to Democrats in the 90s as a New York businessman. It's not even close. So I don't know. I just, the guy gives me a snake oil salesman feel to him, to be totally honest about, where I question who he is and where he's coming from. Some people have been calling him the fake Obama Swami. You see what they did there? The fake Obama Swami instead of Vivek Ramaswamy. But anyway, this surfaced from many, many years ago when Al Sharpton was fat. This is on MSNBC's Hardball. Remember that show with Chris Matthews? He used to take presidential candidates to college campuses and whatnot and have the kids ask questions. And, it was kind of a little dog and pony show. John McCain actually came to Villanova when I was there back in, 15 years ago now. So here is a young Vivek Ramaswamy asking a very critical question to then presidential candidate Al Sharpton.
Question here, go ahead. Reverend Sharpton, hello. I'm Vivek, and I want to ask you, last week on the show we had Senator Kerry, and this week and the week before we had Senator Edwards. And my question for you is, of all the Democratic candidates out there, why should I vote for the one with the least political experience?
Well, you shouldn't, because I have the most political experience. I got involved in the political movement when I was 12 years old. And I've been involved in social policy for the last 30 years. So don't confuse people that have a job with political experience. Whoever the head of some local bureaucracy has a job in Cambridge. That doesn't mean that they have political experience, and it doesn't mean they have the experience to run the United States government. So I think that we confuse title holders with political experience, as we have seen with the present occupant in the White House. George Bush was a governor and clearly has shown he doesn't have political experience. Show some RESPICT.
So that's when there were two Reverend Als. That's when Reverend Al used to eat things the size of the current Reverend Al. 2004 Reverend Al, when he was running for the Democratic nominee in 2004 is when he ran. And that is an 18-year-old Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, Vivek, to his credit, he's very good on social media. He owned the clip. Vivek Ramaswamy shared this clip last night, and because it started going viral yesterday afternoon, and he wrote about this clip, "I'll give the 18-year-old version of myself a pat on the back for eliciting the most sensible words ever to come from this man's mouth. 20 years later, it's funny how the tables have turned." That is Vivek Ramaswamy sharing that clip that I just played for you on his Twitter page last night. So, but there's two funny parts of it. One, of course, is the fact that Vivek is thinking about voting for Reverend Al. Now, I know it's 20 years ago now, but there's still something funny about it. And then the other part of it is him asking Reverend Al why he should vote for the guy with the least political experience when here he is 20 years later as the guy with the least political experience, looking for your vote. So it's just, if nothing else, it is interesting as we go through this primary, which is obviously Donald Trump's to lose. There's nobody even close. And Vivek Ramaswamy has obviously made quite a name for himself because he's very good. I mean, he'd do a great talk show. The word on the street was that he was actually going to join the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's outlet, with Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles, before he decided he was going to run for president. He was going to join them on the podcasting side, and then I guess both parties decided it wasn't going to work. And then Vivek decided he was going to run for president. But he's a very good talker. I just don't know what his principles are. And when you're donating to Act Blue in the fall of 2020, I've got a lot of questions. Now, that being said, we haven't really done anything on the political side today, but there's a new poll out. And I'm not suggesting this is going to mean what some of you want it to mean. But there's a new poll out that suggests in the wake of last week's debate, believe it or not, there may be a softening for Donald Trump. Now, he's still got a 1.5 mile lead. I'm not saying, watch out, somebody's coming up hot on his tail. That's not what I'm saying here at all. But it's the first polling we've seen after the debate. And it does show something that has got to have Trump pretty annoyed right now. So we'll get to what that is coming up right after the news. here on KCMO Talk Radio, 710 AM, 103.7 FM. And, of course, you can stream us on the all-new KCMO Talk Radio app. Pete Mundo on KCMO. We'll get to that right after 9. No, I'm not suggesting. No, please. I'm not suggesting. Good morning, by the way. That Donald Trump is not going to be the nominee. I'm not suggesting that he's falling off a cliff or anything. No, I'm not doing that. Don't worry, texters. All right? I'm just sharing with you a new poll that came out. You do with this what you want, and there are some interesting trends in it. So this Emerson poll that was done here came out yesterday. It was done after the GOP debate. And what it shows is since they started these polls back in June of 2022, so well over a year ago, GOP primary voters, 2024 Republican primary, June 2022 to August of 23. Donald Trump has his lowest support of GOP primary voters. It started off in June of 22 at 55%. It held steady. It peaked at 62% back in April. Since April, it has gone 59 in June, 56 a couple of weeks ago, down to 50% in this most recent poll. So they are his lowest numbers, and they're down about 12 points from April. Now, it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, nobody else is above 12% for crying out loud. So, I'm not going to sit here, oh, you better watch out. Somebody's coming up on his tail. No, that's not happening. I'm not going to BS you. But I do find it interesting that Trump not being at the debate may have hurt him a little bit in terms of how GOP primary voters perceive his candidacy. That's all. Now, the other interesting part is who got the biggest jump. Now, once again, it's all relative, right? But the person who got the biggest jump coming out of the debate was Nikki Haley. And I told you I thought she had a good night. I'm not going to vote for her. If the candidates were what they are right now, I wouldn't vote for her. But she more than tripled her number. She was at 2% 2 weeks ago. She jumped up to 7%. So she's now ahead of people like Mike Pence. Vivek Ramaswamy, by the way, went down in this poll. He went from 10%, tied with DeSantis, to 9%. So he dropped a little bit. And DeSantis got a small jump from 10% to 12%. So once again, nobody's in Trump's ballpark. As somebody said on the text line here, there was a good text on this I wanted to share here. Pete, this would be like the Royals celebrating the fact that they got 4 men on base and they lost by 8 runs. That's a good analogy. I mean, once again, I'm not suggesting anything is close right now, but I do think it's interesting because it's the only debate that we've seen or the only polling that we've seen in a post-debate world. And I'm not surprised Nikki Haley saw a good jump. I mean, I thought that she way exceeded my expectations. I mean, I made a joke the night of the debate, the day of the debate, on the show. I said, there's no way I play any Nikki Haley clips. And then the next morning I was like, whoopsie daisy. Actually, she had some of the better debate lines from that debate last Wednesday night. So I stand corrected there. And the best line that Nikki Haley had in the debate was this.
Well, I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us, too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt. And our kids are never going to forgive us for this. And so at the end of the day, you look at the 2024 budget, Republicans asked for $7.4 billion in earmarks. Democrats asked for $2.8 billion. So you tell me who are the big spenders. I think it's time for an accountant in the White House.
All right. That's Nikki Haley, one of the best answers in the debate. Now, here also in this poll, in the Midwest, right where we are here, this is interesting. It says here, different candidates have been able to pull varying demographic support from the Trump base. For example, Mike Pence, who saw an overall 4-point bump in voter support, was able to increase his support in the Midwest from 4 to 13%. I don't know who that is. I thought Mike Pence had a terrible night. While Trump saw his Midwest support drop from 54% to 42% after the debate. Nikki Haley's support increased from 2 to 9%, while voters over 50, Nikki Haley's support increased from 2 to 9% amongst voters over 50, while Trump's support dropped within the age group, those over 50, from 56% to 49%. So it's just worth keeping an eye on, if nothing else. 913-408-7710. Wes is on KCMO. He's out of Gladstone. What's up, Wes? Good morning.
Yeah, hey, Pete. So his name is pronounced Vivek. It rhymes with cake.
Vivek.
That's what Vivek. That's what he told. I forget one of the talking heads, but no. I've been thinking about why you think about him the way that you do. And I was watching an interview that he did back in March with Candace Owens, which was on the Daily Wire, but I found it on YouTube. I would recommend everybody watch that because he talks about where he's from, right? You know, as a kid, blah, blah, blah. But I got to thinking about that. And I think maybe the reason you feel the way that you do about him, Pete, is because you don't feel that this country could produce someone like him.
That might be the dumbest thing you've ever said on this show, Wes.
Pete,
what do you mean? What do you mean he couldn't produce? He's the son of immigrants, and he's founded multi-billion-dollar companies. I mean, what do you mean? That's what America is at its core.
I mean, produce someone that's got the convictions that he has.
He doesn't have any convictions. He was giving Democrats money in a post-George Floyd America.
Hey, he's in business, and like you said, Trump had done the same thing. Now,
no. Stop with the Trump comparison. Trump giving money to Democrats in the 90s is not comparable to Vivek. Got the name right for you there, Wes. Is not the same as your man crush giving money to Democrats after the party supported burning down buildings and businesses in this country and supported shutting down America and masking kids in classrooms. That is not the same.
Well, I would agree with that, and I need to find out more about his donations, okay? Now, the other thing is I'm not totally sold on the guy. He was talking about how he would end the Ukrainian war, right? And he had several points. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And I'm sitting there going, tell me how you're going to do that. Get off the platitudes. Start giving us some concrete examples. When you say you're going to do something, tell me you're a businessman who's made all of this money because you've had to put together plans, implement them, and make sure that they went all the way through, right? Tell me how you're going to do these things.
Yeah.
Then I'll really start taking you seriously. But I think a lot of people just don't think that this country can produce someone with his I forget what I said earlier, man, but that
conviction.
His convictions. I really believe him about his convictions. He could be full of it, but right now I think he's a man of convictions. So
all right,
that's where I'm at with the guy.
All right, thank you, Wes. I mean, I just I find it interesting that, and I'm not saying Wes is of this ilk, but there's a lot of people who have fallen in love with Vivek. And that's your prerogative. I'm not telling you not to. I just, I'm here to have an opinion too. That love Vivek and call a guy like Ron DeSantis a Rhino Uniparty shill. Yet one of those two guys literally received a George Soros-funded scholarship after making millions of dollars to go to law school.
It was Soros's brother.
That's right, Soros's brother. And then on top of that, has given money to Democrats as recently as the 2020 election. I mean, I can't square it. 913-408-7710, but it's fascinating. He has become the most compelling guy in this primary, and he's certainly given a lot of things to talk about. And you know what? We're just here to have the conversation on KCMO Talk Radio.